Hey folks, I wanted to show you that you can transfer the skills that you're learning in Python to something called JavaScript and HTML, which would allow you to write code that can run anywhere. Now, let's take a quick look. We're gonna go to a website called repl.it, and I'm gonna go ahead and log in. And if you Google repl.it, you'll find it very quickly. REPL is spelled REPL.it. I'm going to go ahead and log in. And I use my school login just like I would like you to. That would be awesome. And we're going to go ahead and I think there's a couple of ways to make a new program, and they call them REPLs, R-E-P-L. They call it a REPL. So I'm going to go ahead and click plus. And also, by the way, there is a thing over here. It says plus new REPL, so it's a little more obvious. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the programming language of HTML, CSS, and JS. You'll notice that they also let you program in our favorite Python. However, today we're going to do HTML, CSS, and JS. The JS stands for JavaScript. And we're going to work on something that's going to be a bit like what we've doing in the CMU Online Academy. We're going to work on drawing on a canvas. And I'm going to call this 1 because who knows, we might do more. And I'll go ahead and click Create REPL. Okay, now once repl.it once it sets us up, we've got several cool things going on. One, we've got what's known as an HTML file. HTML files are what you use all the time. Every time you look at a web page, you're looking at an HTML file. Not raw, you're looking at it interpreted, but you are looking at an HTML file. Then we've got a code file, and this one is called script.js, and JS stands for JavaScript. And then we've got another one called style.css, but we're not going to use that now. Style.css is that's just a file that lets you adjust how things look on a web page that you write, like index.html. All right, anyways, let's go ahead and clean. Well, I'll mostly leave. You know what? Maybe I will strip a few things out. It turns out that repl.it does a little bit of overkill on suggesting to us what needs to be on our web page. It turns out you can make a web page with very little code. And by the way, this is known as HTML code or HTML tags. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this thing at the top. Now, maybe there's some people that feel like they really need it, but I want you to have a very simple set of tags so that you feel very comfortable with working on this project. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of both of these meta tags. Say goodbye. And instead of repl.it, let's call the title here Drawing on a Canvas. Now, this will be a slightly different canvas than what we've been drawing on with Python, but it's still a canvas. All right, the other thing is we're not going to need the CSS, so I'm just going to get rid of this. And everything else we are going to need. Now, for those of you that would like a quick little tour, we start off when we're creating an HTML page, we start off with an HTML tag. And then we end with an HTML tag, except with a little / in it. And everything in between is then thought to be HTML code. At the very beginning, we can put a head tag, and then we end the head tag, and everything between the head tag and the ending head tag is stuff that won't appear on the page. In this case, we can put a title, and that'll actually appear at the that title appears, I believe, when you're in the web browser. So it appears like in the somewhere in the bar. But we could actually do without the head tag and without the title altogether, but I'm going to leave it there for now. And the other thing that's really important is the body tag and the end body tag. And for us, we're not going to put much, by the way, whatever you put inside the body tag appears in the HTML page. And just as quickly so that you can see a quick example, I'm going to go ahead and do something like h1 is a, oh, by the way, I want you to notice that REPL.it, when I start typing HTML, it actually gives me some recommendations. And I'm going to say h1, and that's a header. It's a large header. And then I'm going to say hello world, because that's how we start off many computer programs when you're learning. And then I'll do /h1 to end that header tag. And then if I go hit run, I should get hello world on my web page. Yay! All right, but the more important thing is that we can do a script. So we're going to need a script tag, and it goes from here to here. And then we're going to need an end script tag. And it turns out that we're not going to put anything in between the two, which is a little strange because all the other tags we put something in between the two. For this script tag, instead what we're going to do is we're going to tell the HTML page what is the source code for the script. And so we abbreviate source SRC. That's the abbreviation. And then we set that equal to, in this case, script.js. Now, we could name this whatever we want as long as it matches the actual code for our script, which in this case is script.js, and it's over on the left in my table of contents. So hopefully you guys can go ahead and pause the video and get caught up to me and make the appropriate changes, get rid of all the stuff that I got rid of. And if you want, you can add the hello world, or you do not have to. But I do want you to understand that this script code is very important, and it has to be written exactly as you see it, and it has to be between a body start tag and a body end tag. All right, then after you've paused the video and you got that done, let's go ahead and take a look at the script. Now in this case, yay, there's not much here. So we're going to start off with some really basic stuff to get you going on a script that will let you draw on the canvas, which is over here to the right. The canvas here is this sort of white square. So the first thing we're going to do in the script is to tell the script how to find the canvas to draw on. Now, this is a step that you were able to skip when you were writing your Python code in the CMU Academy. They did this for you. This code was there, but you did not see it. So I'm going to go ahead and put the code in. And to me, it's not that important that you know what this is doing. But if you'd like a quick explanation, what it does is it simply, this script scans the document that the script is in. And remember, the script is in this HTML document. This scans the document for wherever the canvas object is. And then it lets us set this variable, which, by the way, we could call it the variable Fred if we wanted to. But it allows us to make a variable called canvas that is associated with the actual canvas that is in the HTML page. That's what it does. Okay, now we don't need to worry about that. That's the code, and that works. Now we can begin to do some drawing stuff. Now, the other thing we'd like to know is we'd like to know what is the width of the canvas. So we're going to take a variable, and we're going to set the canvas width to whatever the browser window size is, all the way out to something called the inner width. Now you'll notice when I write JavaScript code, I have to end every line with a semicolon. That's one reason why you and I are programming in Python instead of JavaScript, because there's so much less what we call syntax in Python than there is in JavaScript. All right, we're also going to do the canvas height. And again, we'll set it to the window.inner height. And this will just make it so that we kind of max out the size of our canvas. Now I'm not sure if we can see the result just yet. I'm going to hit run to see if it works. And ooh, there's already an error. Let me debug. All right, so I just tried running this and it did not work. And what I realized was I forgot something to tell you in the index.html file. And this is the only other change that you and I are going to have to make to the index.html file for this particular project. And what it is before we do the script, we have to let the HTML page know that we want to have a canvas. There we go. And so now when we go to the script, when we go to run this code on line 1, now there actually will be a canvas to find. And then we can set the width and the height. So here we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and try running. And we get no response down in the console, so I'm not sure that it worked, but at least there's no errors. And there would be an error down here in red if there was a problem. And that is how I found my bug just a minute ago. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the next line of code. We're going to go ahead and, again, this is just one of those housekeeping things that has to be done. And it's not anything that we need to worry about. It's something that we'll do every time when we're going to go ahead and draw on the canvas. And now, once we have these 4 lines of code written, we can reuse those 4 lines of code anytime we want to create an HTML file that allows us to draw on a canvas in the file. And now we can begin to do the drawing stuff just like we did in Python. And again, what I'd like to remind you is that in Python, they have all this stuff. It's just that code has already been written for you and you didn't need to worry about it. Now we've written it and we can put it aside and we can begin to do things like draw rectangles. And so one of the things we'll do is we'll draw a rectangle. Now, since I want to draw on the canvas, I will say C dot and then I'll say what I'd like to draw. And the cool news is that REPL.IT will automatically fill this in. So we're going to say fill, F-I-L-L. That's a little bit different than what we had to do in Python when we wanted to draw a rectangle. In Python, we just said rect. But here we, with JavaScript, we're going to do .fill rect. And since I started typing fill, I can just use my arrow key on my keyboard to go down and choose fill rect and hit enter. And then when I put parentheses in, it tells me what my parameters are. There's an X position, a Y position, a width, and a height, X, Y, W, and H. So just like we learned in CMU Online Academy with Python. So I'm going to go ahead and make the, I'm going to do 100, 200 for the X and the Y. And then I'm going to make my thing 50 by 75. And then don't forget to end the line with a semicolon. And let's run and see what happens. And yay, I get a rectangle. Woohoo! And oh, by the way, if we want to have some information to help us debug, instead of using a print command, we'll use something called console.log. And this works a lot like a print command. And then whatever we type here will show up on the console. In this case, I'm just going to say, let's see here, nothing to say just yet. And then we'll go ahead and we'll run. And then we can see down here, nothing to say just yet. That shows me that my code is running and I've got my rectangle. And if I want to fool around and change the rectangle a little bit, maybe I want it to be 200, 100. We can do that. And let's say we want to make it, who knows, maybe let's make it 100 by 25, something like that. We can do that. And the other thing is we can actually change the color of the rectangle. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys where to find all kinds of all kinds of reference information in order for you to do all kinds of things on the canvas. So in order to find some reference information about how to draw on a HTML canvas, one thing we can do is we can try JavaScript, Google JavaScript fill rect. This is just one possibility. There's multiple ways to do this. And it turns out it's the second link that's really valuable that says W3 schools. And it says HTML canvas fill rect method. I'm going to click on that. When we get here, we can see that it tells us how to use the fill rect method, and it even shows us that we need to get the canvas from the document, and it shows us that we need to get the context 2D, and so that's helpful. And then it shows us here's how we draw the rectangle. If we want more information, we can see all kinds of things you can do with the HTML canvas by clicking here. And one of the things that we can do is we can change the fill style. and so we can make things a different color. Now, in order to change the fill style, we're going to have to use a special kind of code. Instead of just giving the name of a color, we'll have to use a special code, and I'll show you how to use that code in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and copy this and get back to the code we're working on. And you have to change the color before you draw the rectangle. And since our canvas variable is C, not CTX, we're going to change that to C.fillStyle. And the way this works is these first two, you leave the hashtag always. That tells us that we're about to have a code. And the first two letters of the code are how much red. And the second two letters of the code, or second two numbers, are how much green. And the last two are how much blue. And when we combine them together, we can make like 16 million different colors. Now, since I have the red set to FF, that's going and the other set to 0, I'm going to get mainly a red color. So I'm going to go ahead and hit run. And there you go. And if I change those two F's to 0, and hit run, well, no colors at all, 0 colors, 0 reds, 0 greens, and 0 blues will give me a black. And if I set the middle two to F, then I should get green. And if I change the middle two to zeros and change the last two to F's, I will get a blue. There we go. Now, there's all kinds of other color combinations, and for those of you that are interested in researching a little bit more, oh, by the way, when we type in Python, if we want to make comments, we use a hashtag. When we type in JavaScript, if we want to make a comment line of code, then we use 2 forward slashes. And I'm just going to put here that these color codes are in a special, it's a special actually number system called hexadecimal. There we go. And if you want to look up all the hexadecimal color codes, you can. It's something you could Google quite quickly. Actually, let's go back to Google and look for hexadecimal. Oh, actually, we can abbreviate with hex color codes. And you'll see there's lots and lots of pages that tell us how to figure out what the hex color codes are for any particular color that we are interested in. Oh, and by the way, you'll notice that we also have the RGB codes there, which you've already been using in your Python. All right, anyways, I was hoping that you would get this far through my tutorial and be able to, now I'm hopeful that you can write code that you can share with anybody anywhere, because all you have to do is create the web page and the JavaScript, and then you can share that with anyone anywhere, or you could even post it as a web page on a website and anyone can see your code running. Okay. Anyways, that's the end of this tutorial. I'm probably going to ask you to do a little something with the code to show me that you actually understand, and then you're going to submit your results to Canvas.